Alright, good evening. Kindly drop in the chat box. If you can hear me, kindly drop in the chat box you can hear me. If you can hear me, please kindly drop in the chat box that I'm audible enough so that we can proceed. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me know if I'm audible enough, if you can hear me. Tonight we are starting with Microsoft Access, Introduction to Database Management. Introduction to Database Management using Microsoft Access. Microsoft Access is a database software. Okay, not loud enough. Let me know if I'm audible enough. Am I audible now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? If I'm audible enough, let me know. Someone said not loud enough. Let me know if I'm well enough now. Please let me know if I'm audible enough. If you can hear me, let me know. Hello, if you can hear me, I need persons to confirm now that I'm audible enough. Let me confirm if I'm audible enough so that we can proceed. All right, thank you. Thank you. Now this night we are starting with Introduction to Database Management. Introduction to Database Management, and database is one of the very important aspects in data management. It's a very vital aspect in data management, in data analysis. Database is a very vital aspect in data management, data analysis. And tonight, as part of the basics, fundamentals of IT, one need to have the basic knowledge of database management, and tonight is via Microsoft Access. But before we go on to creating database, those of us in the group, you already have the course outline for this night, which is Introduction to Database Management, the outline Introduction to Microsoft Access, overview of Microsoft Access and its uses, understanding the Access interface, creating new database, navigating the navigation pane, basic database task. That is what we are going to be looking at this night. That's what we are going to be looking at this night. Now, to begin, what is database? We need to have a background knowledge, a background understanding of what database is. What is database? A database is an organized collection of structured data stored and managed in a way that allows efficient retrieval, manipulation, and maintenance of information. That's what we refer to, that's what we can define database to be: an organized collection of structured data stored. The key essence, the key important stuff in this definition is organized collection, structured data, storage, managed. These are the key essence in this definition. So a database is an organized collection of structured data stored and managed in a way that allows efficient retrieval. I will modify this a bit: efficient and effective retrieval, manipulation, and maintenance of information. Now, a database consists of tables. A database consists of tables. Tables is where data is being stored. Is where data are being stored. That's what tables are. Tables comprises of columns and rows. In database, we call it fields and records. For columns, we refer to it as fields in database. For rows, we refer to it as records in database. So what a column is in database we call it field. What row is in database we refer to it as records. So it is, table is where data are being stored in a database. So one of the database object is the table. So this is the definition of database. This is the definition of database. Now, the next is what is database management? We have defined what database is. The next is to define what database management is. Now, we refer to as database management as a process of creating, maintaining, and utilizing database effectively. It's a process of creating, maintaining, and utilizing database effectively. Now, it involves various tasks such as designing, implementing, designing and implementing database structures. The task to create database objects, to create tables, forms, and the likes. So when we talk about database management, we say it's a process of creating, maintaining, and utilizing database effectively, which involves designing and implementing database structure, defining data types and relationships, enforcing data integrity. Now we'll talk about data types like date, like time, like numbers, like text, integers. These are data types. Now, having established this, we'll be looking at now what the overview of database, overview of Microsoft Access and these uses. Microsoft Access is a relational database. I want us to take note of that. Microsoft Access is a relational database. Microsoft Access is a relational database. It's a relational database management system. It's a relational database management system. That's what we refer to as RDBMS. R stands for relational, D stands for database, DB, that's database, M stands for management, S stands for system. So Microsoft Access is a relational database management system and is owned by Microsoft. In fact, it's part of the Microsoft Office suite. So whenever you install Microsoft Office, one of the softwares that comes with it is Microsoft Access. And this Microsoft Access is mostly used, in fact, is mostly used by small to medium-sized businesses. Small to medium-scale businesses. It's not really, this is one of the limitations of Microsoft Access. It's not really used by a large corporation. It can be used by small or medium-scale businesses in managing their data, in tracking their inventory, in managing customer information, staff informations, and even in creating invoices. These are the few uses of Microsoft Access. Now, having established that, what are the database terminologies in Microsoft Access? What are the database terminologies in Microsoft Access? The first is what we can call primary key. A primary key is a unique identifier. What we refer to as primary key is a unique identifier. Is one of the fields that helps to enforce and referential integrity in the Microsoft Access. So when we talk about primary key, is a unique identifier, is a field that is so unique that no other field has is a field that in its records, all the records in that field are unique. There is no record that has a duplicate. There is no record that can be repeated under that field assigned to be primary key. Now, what I mean by that is that, for example, if your contact, your information, your data is with the bank, as well as other bank customers, but there is one aspect of your data that can never be the same with any of the customers. Another customer might have the same name with you. He might share the same phone number with you, might share the same email with you. But the fact remains is that customer will never share the same account number with you. So that's why in the bank, your account number becomes the primary key. That's when you go to bank and you have issues, maybe the issues of debits, alerts, transaction, ATM, and you go to report to the customer service. The first thing they will ask you to do is to tender the account number that is affected, or you call your network provider, be it MTN or the likes, and you have a challenge. They will ask you to provide the number, the phone number that is being affected. They ask you, are you calling with the affected phone number? Because they know that you are the only one that have that phone number within their database. That there cannot be duplicate of that number in their database. That is what we refer to as primary key. Is a unique identifier. So under database terminologies, we have number one. The first one is primary key. Then the second one we will talk about this night is foreign key. The foreign key. That's the next one we will look at this night. Foreign key. Now, what's a foreign key? What do we refer to be foreign key? Now, foreign key is let me explain it to us in a way that we will understand it quickly. Before we move to creating our database. Now, foreign key is a primary key. Let's say you have 3 tables. You have 3 or more than 3 or 4 tables. In the staff table, the staff ID is the primary key. No staff has the same ID as regards to the other staff. That becomes the primary key in that staff table. Then let's say in the staff payroll, tables, or in the staff payroll table, the account number or the receipt number, whatever, is the primary key, while the staff ID is also present in that table, but not the primary key. On the staff table, in the staff table, the staff ID is primary key. While in the account details table, let's say the account number is the primary key, while the staff ID is also part of the field in that table, but not the primary key. So in that table now, that staff ID is referred to as a foreign key. Now, in a nutshell, a foreign key is a field that is primary key in another table. In another table, that field is a primary key, but while in that table is not a primary key, that in that table is called foreign key. Why this is very important, we will be using this concept of foreign key when we go to database relationship to relate tables together. In fact, we will use also this principle of relationship, primary and foreign key, in data modeling. In advanced Excel, we use that in data modeling to create a relationship, to create a data model in Excel in the advanced aspect of Microsoft Excel. However, getting to understand this concept now is very key, is very important. That a foreign key, let me also bring it alive. If you are a Nigerian, here you are called a citizen. Here you are a citizen. Now, when you move outside the shores of Nigeria to another country, you become a foreigner. You become a foreigner. So a foreign key is a field that is primary. A field that is primary in a table, primary key in a table, but while in another table that field is not primary key, then that field becomes foreign key. I know why I'm explaining this, taking my time to explain this concept, because it's very, very important we understand this concept of foreign key and primary key, because we are going to be using it in what we call relationship in the database, to establish relationship between tables so that we can run queries, we can design, we can get our forms, we can do reports as regards to what we are going to handle. So when we get to that point, it becomes a bit tricky. So I want us to understand it. So as when we are planning on our table, when we are planning our tables, how to design tables, we put this into consideration so as to ensure that we have something to go about in relating these tables together. That's the primary key and the foreign key. Then another aspect in database terminologies is the course of tables. Tables is one of the database objects. And what's the function of a table? Table is a database object where data are being stored. That's a table. It comprises of fields and records. A table is a database object. It's a relational database object where data are stored. So that's what we refer to as table. Then the next thing we talk about is form. Form is a relational database object that is used for data entry. It's an aspect where we use to enter data into the database. If you are the database user, not the database administrator, not the database admin, is an database object where a user uses to enter data into the table in the database. Now that's what we refer to as form. Form is what gives user the access to enter data, while the database administrator have access both to the table and to the form, while the user has access only to the form. For example, when you are filling form online, you are filling for your NYSC, you are filling for maybe any registration you are doing online, and when you hit enter, the information goes straight to the table and store. That's why a table is designed in a way to follow a certain process, to follow a certain principle, that if is the last person is 100, the next data that will come will take 101. That is what we refer to as form. Form is a database object. Then the next is query. Query is a database object where we use to retrieve information, use to retrieve data from the database. Is an aspect of, is an object in database that is used to retrieve data from the database. That's query. So query is simple when you go to Google and you ask Google a question and Google gives you answer. Query is completed. Query is a process of asking and receiving. Query is not complete when you have not received the question or the answer to the question you asked, or the database have not given you back the data you requested for. So a query is a process of asking and receiving. You send in an instruction to the database. Give me this, select this, update this, do this. Then the database gives you back that which you requested for. That is query. So if you go to Google and you ask Google question and Google did not bring feedback, then there is an error in the process. That might be an internet error that did not allow the completion of the query, where you might now see an error prompt. An error prompt. And that is query. Now, having established that, the next one is report. In Microsoft Access Relational Database, report is the only aspect of the database object that can be printed out. As we go into this, we'll be seeing it. I want to lay this emphasis tonight, this basis, is the aspect of the database object that we can print out. We can print out to submit. We can print out to give as regards as reports. So that's what that's another database terminologies. Now we move to data types. Under the database in Microsoft Access, we have data types, which are part of the stuff when we are creating tables. In the tables, we are defining the fields. We need to assign certain data types that field will operate on. Database is something that requires us to be very careful. Is somehow, let me use the word stubborn. It's not something like in Microsoft Word you press Ctrl Z, or Microsoft Excel you make a mistake and you press Ctrl Z. If you make a mistake, you have to also go through a process to correct that error, to correct that mistake. So in Microsoft Access, there is what we call data types. And we have the data types at our disposal are related, like the text, the numbers, the date, currencies, attachments, and the likes, which we are going to be using when we start in the next class, where we'll be creating tables. By tomorrow, we will move to our outline of day 2, where we begin to create tables and enter data into the table, and that's data entry. But tonight is for us to understand the concept of database. And may I say this, that virtually the things I have said also apply to other database softwares. Other example of database softwares can be SQL. We have SQL. Somehow Excel can be used as a database. You will see all these Azure web servers, those SQL, Oracle, Amazon web server, Azure. These are examples of database, which you can use SQL as a language to operate to issue a command. So when we talk about some of the things I talked about now, also applies to other database softwares. The fields, the records, the inferential integrities, the tables, the primary keys, foreign keys. This also applies to those other softwares. Not only, doesn't only apply to Microsoft Access. It doesn't only apply to Microsoft Access. It also applies to other database softwares. Now, having established this, we will move straight to creating database. How to create database is very simple. How to create our database in Microsoft Access. Because if you don't create the database, you can't have access into the place where you can see the interface, where to create tables and the likes. Here is more like we can refer to as the back office. We can refer to this place more like as the back office in Microsoft Access. Like we call it is a database software, and tonight we will be creating our database. What's like we say database is like a warehouse. It's like your cupboard, it's like your purse, it's like your handbag, it's like your wherever you store data, wherever you store information, wherever you store stuff, that becomes your database. Whether it's information, whether it's physical stuff, it becomes your database. What gives rise to database softwares is because they increase the volume and the increase of data, and the need for data organization, the need for data management effectively, the need for data storage. Imagine if there is no software. How do you think that the paper, the signing, the records of all the activities a university have gone through years? Where will they put it? Where will they put all the records? Or where will they put all the exam papers, all the exam records and stuff like that? So that is what gives birth to this software called database, to help in data management, to help in data storage, to help in data efficiency. That's what gives rise to database management. Hence, we need to go to create our first database. Let's go to create our first database. Remember, when you create this database, whatsoever you put inside, inside whatever data is now stored in this database you are creating. So then what we do now is we go to blank database. We go to blank database. If there are other database you have, if there are other database you have already created, it will appear here. That means you can create a database for as many companies as possible. You can create a database for your company and then create a database for another company. You can help different companies manage their database. Small and medium scale businesses, you can let them know, well, let me help you to manage your database. And the good thing about it now is that even Microsoft Office have cloud. So you can even back up their data in the cloud. So you can use Microsoft Access to start up database management consultancy. You can use it to start up database management consultancy. One of the things that small companies does is inefficiency, ineffectiveness in managing their data properly, storing their data properly. They have that challenge to store data for future use. So these assets can be used to help small businesses, medium businesses manage their data, store their data effectively, and you can create as many databases as possible for companies, for businesses. So we go to blank database. We click on blank database. This dialog window appears. So here is where you state the name of the database. Now let's say in this database, let's say we call it Solomon. Let's say we call it Solomon. And then you look at this place. This place is the directory. In other words, it's telling you that this database is going to be stored or is going to be placed inside your documents. Inside your documents. However, if you don't want it to be in your documents, if you don't want this to be in the document, you go to this icon here. This file icon, you click on this file icon. Now once you click on the file icon, another dialog box comes out. Here you select whether you want it in the desktop, download music and whatever. Let's say I want it on the desktop. Now once I select desktop, I will come and say OK. So once that is done, you will notice that the document have changed to desktop. This document that was there before is now desktop. In other words, if I create this database using this icon, my database will be on my desktop. That's what it means. That's what it means. That's the meaning, simply that my database will be on my desktop. So what do? I go straight and click on create. Now we have created our database, and that takes us inside. That will take us inside our database. And as it is for other Microsoft Office applications, you can see here is the title bar. Here is the title bar, as you can see. Here is the title bar. This is the name. Then here is our quick access toolbar. Here is our quick access toolbar, like I showed us in the Microsoft Word. You can also what do I call it? You can also create your own tab here. Go in there, you can customize your own ribbon. Here, new tab, you can create that, which if you don't know how to do that, check the training in our Microsoft Word training, the first training we did in Microsoft Word, that you will see how you can create your own custom tab. These are tabs. This is called the File tab, the Home tab, Create tab, and the likes. And this is the ribbon. This is called the ribbon. This ribbon is under the table field. I close this table now, this ribbon will disappear. But these are the tabs in Microsoft Access. Here is to under this create. When you click on create, you will see that under this create, you will see the 4 database objects in Microsoft Access. You see table, queries, form, reports, macros. So these are the 4 database objects. Then under the external data, here you can import. This is where you can import. You can import from Microsoft Excel. You can import from other database softwares. You can import from Excel. You can import HTML document. You can import XML file. You can import a text file inside this. You can also import from this Access, from SQL Server. You can import from Azure database, and you can also import from an online stuff, the SharePoint data service, and other database objects. So these are where you can import. You can import here. Also, you can export your work. You can export it to Excel. You can export to PS. You can export as PDF, email, Access, and then word merge. That also you can from this place. So this under your data, external data, either to import or to export. Now the database tools, this is where we run our macros, our VBA, Visual Basic, which is an advanced aspect of database, an advanced aspect of Microsoft Access. Then this is where we can run our relationship. When we get there, you will see how we can run relationship relating three or more tables together. Then we look at we analyze some performance, analyze tables, and that. Then this is your table fields. When we create table, we can do other things as regards to the table formattings. Then here is the table icon. Here is the table icon. And this is an overview of the ribbon. Here is the navigation panes. Here you see the table. This is where the tables you created. These are where the objects, let me put it here, all the database objects, all the objects and access, you will locate it here. The tables, the forms, the queries, the reports, they are all on this place. This is where you locate it. This is what is telling you one of one for your records. For your records is what shows you one of one. Under these records is showing you for this, we are in record 1, and you move to 2. Now, from what you see here, this is the database interface. Now, you have just created an empty database. What we just did is we just created an empty database with no information, with no data inside. It's more like you having an empty bag. It's more like you having an empty carton. It's more like you having an empty box. That's what we have just created, an empty database. So when we now create table and create forms and start creating tables, forms, start putting information, start putting data inside, then we have started developing, putting up our portfolios. So as that one can say, okay, can I see what you have done? You show the person, well, I have been able to have this, create this database, help this company manage this data, and so like create tables, create forms for them where they can use to enter data. That becomes a portfolio. So with this file, is under file, you have a normal aspect of what we call it, stuff. We have new, open, info, and stuff like that. And this, like you see here, is a Northwind status templates of a database. This student, this contact, access tracking, asset tracking, and the likes. This is now the database we created. If there are other ones, if we create another database, you will still see it here, recent database which we created. Now here is still like in the Microsoft Word, to get access to know the kind of office you are using, and you can change the theme and the background of your Microsoft Access. You can change that. Then this one is internet feedback, if you want to give any feedback. Then here is options like we have earlier. Here you can go to proving data sheets, database, general. Those are what you have here. Now this is telling you default file format for blank database. You can change the default file format. So from here, this has the highest, because we are using 2021. So we, by default, the 2016 should be, by default 2016 should be. Okay, now having explained that, this also is where we want to, if you want to change your default directory, if you want it to be anytime you let it be saved on the desktop, you can come here and you change it. You select desktop and you say okay. So that is that when we open this database again and create another database, we don't need to go back and be changing it to desktop, let it be saved in the desktop. No, it will by default be saved in our desktop. So that's the aspect that we can look at to change some features, to change some stuff in Microsoft Access. Then here is show feature description screen tips, which is very important. You need to leave that there. And then if you go to your current database, you look at application title, application icon. Now that's the icon you want to show it. Then and this display status overlapping window, we don't need it. Here is where you can set up some default stuff in your current database. Set up your default stuff in your current database. These are what you can set up. If you want to clear cache, is never cache, and that say filter lookups option for Soluma, local index, we don't need this. And so here is where you can set up then the data sheet, which we will get to in as we progress. So that's where the back end of Microsoft Access is. Those are the things we can access in the back end via this option. There is this aspect of proofing. This is also in Excel. Here, autocorrect option. Now, in the autocorrect option, you can insert your own autocorrect option. Maybe one of these days I will make a video on this stuff. In autocorrect option, you can insert that. You can make your own correction. For example, if you are entering data, for example, okay, when we get to data entry, I will show us what this is all about, the function of this, because if I do that now and later tomorrow begin to talk about this, we might not really understand it very well. Join me tomorrow, I will explain this. If you know in your phone, maybe you type something, you type a word, you didn't really type it well. When you move near the word, you see the correct aspect of that word, or that word automatically corrects itself. That is the aspect of what we are having here, the autocorrect. So tomorrow when I set up this, we can now see it, use it during data entry. That you see when we do that, you see how that will correct itself. But now if I do that without practicing it, we might not really fully understand it very, very well. So that is one of the things I will show us tomorrow. Is a very, very important features in Microsoft Office. Now, also here you can, by default is English. This place you need some add-ins to change the English. You need some add-ins, or if you go to this place now, you see different languages by default. Different languages, you will see Filipino, French by default. Different languages. So if you want to type in French, if you want to type in Spanish, any of these languages already set here, then you can go ahead to do that. But however, this you install it, however, is English we are going to be dealing with. So that's on the language. Now this we have in client setting, which I will explain a bit tomorrow when we move to creating table. When we move to create table, how the client setting we use that. Then the customize ribbon, I have to show us what we can use the customized ribbon to do. So that is the aspect of this back office. That's the aspect of this back office. Now, as we have gotten this aspect of this back office, the next thing I will want to explain here, before we wrap up this introduction to database is that database is a software that follows set rules. It follows strict rules. If you don't abide by the rules, you are not going anywhere. You are not making any headway. As you can see here, it's not in Microsoft Word that immediately you can start playing around with it, typing something and checking it out. No, it follows set rules. That's one of the things we call a referential integrity. There are rules and regulations that one has to follow. And that's why everyone needs to be guided by hand, be taken by hand. And if you notice, some of us that did computer training during the time we are growing up, maybe we did and we forget it, you notice that this access mostly is not being taught. The thing, mostly the stuff that is called desktop publishing, computer proficiency, is mostly Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Access is not mostly taught because of its set rules. There are rules of engagement. There are certain things you need to apply, know how to navigate to be able to create the database, enter database, create your top tables, create your form. And in doing those things, there are set rules, there are set principles that you must be able to follow. So having understood this, from tomorrow we will be going through the aspect of creating table and moving into data entry, having to see how we enter data and how we create the tables. So here is the create options. Now, to wrap up this section this night is where we'll be looking at the basic task. We'll be looking at the basic task according to our timetable. We'll be looking at the basic database management task. That as a database administrator, as a database personnel, someone that is knowledgeable and skillful in database management, what are the necessary tasks? What are the tasks you are going to be carrying out? Number one is creating and designing database. Number two is data entry and manipulation. That's number two. If you have your paper and biro, you can write them down. Number two is the data entry and manipulation. That's adding, editing, and deleting of records in tables. When we talk about creating and designing database, is all about defining database structures, creating tables and appropriate fields, setting data types, doing relationships. Then the number three task as a database administrator, as a database manager, is querying and filtering data. To query the database, to filter data, that's retrieving data, filter data, retrieve data, and aggregate, using aggregate functions and the likes. Then number four is creating forms and reports. You create forms for the database user to enter information into the table, and then you create reports. Then establishing relationship and managing table relationship as well is the next task as a database manager. And then the next is to perform basic security and maintenance. to perform basic security and maintenance. To perform basic security and maintenance. Now, having explained this, as a database administrator, you are not one who is to design. You are not one who creates the database. You make like what I mean by that. You are not the one going to write the software, the program that gave birth to Microsoft Access. No, the database admin makes use of the database itself to create a platform where he or she can manage information at his disposal. Where he or she can manage information at his disposal. So that's who you are. You are a database admin. You are an admin. You are not an engineer. You are not a database designer. You are not there to design the database. You are not the programmer. You are there to make use of the database that has been established in order to manage data. That's why you are called database manager. That's what we are talking about here, database management. The database has already been established, has already been developed, designed. We are managers. We are there to manage. We are not there to create new one. We are not there to design new one. What we are there to do is to make use of the database to create tables, create things that as objects, functions that will help us to manage data at our disposal. The new oil of the world is data. Let me round up with this. Don't joke with data. One of the core stuff I encourage everyone that have known me is to master data analytics. The new oil is not crude oil, is data. Every country, every company, every organization is looking for database managers, is looking for data analytics, is looking for data analysts, because every day by day informations are growing, data are growing, and the fight that the top world countries are fighting today is not the fight of money, it's not the fight of oil, it's the fight of who have access to data, who have access to information, and who can manage these informations very well. And this is one of the reasons that Facebook is not in China. This is one of the reasons that WhatsApp is not in China. Why? Because when you now, let me digress a bit. For those of us that uses our phones and stuff like that, when you install WhatsApp in your phone, WhatsApp has a cloud of database. And one of the things that we make you to use WhatsApp camera, WhatsApp voice, and that WhatsApp will tell you, grant me access to your camera, grant me access to your documents, grant me access to so this and so that. And you think that when you have those access to those, when you give WhatsApp access to those stuff, that is only the things that involve WhatsApp he has access to. No, all the pictures you have in your phones are accessible to WhatsApp. All the videos you have in your phone is accessible to Facebook, is accessible to WhatsApp, is accessible to Twitter. So you wonder how America's, these top countries of the world, have access to data, have access to informations. You wonder how they have access to this data, these informations. So what that is that all those assets is that they are having backing up all your data, taking data to be there. That's why if you watch movies on your phone and you enter Google will be giving you advert as regards to what you did on your phone, or you did something on your phone, you read certain article on your phone offline. Google will be giving you, you go to Google or you go to internet and stuff, they'll be bringing you advert as regards to what you did on your phone. Why? Because these guys have access to data in your phone. Data is the new oil of the world. So that's why data analysts, data scientists, database managers are highly sought after. And this is the foundation to which we can start our data analysis journey. These are foundations to which we can build our data and database management journey. And by tomorrow we will be looking at how we can create tables and how we can effectively enter data and manage any database, any data within the database using Microsoft Access. Now, if you have any question, you feel free to drop it in our group. And peradventure, you are watching me, you have not subscribed to the channel, please kindly subscribe so that immediately tomorrow when we go live, you can get notified that we are live. Press the notification button so as to be reminded that we are live tomorrow. Tomorrow by 8 o'clock on the dot, we are starting the class tomorrow on the how to create a table in the database and data entry as regards to Microsoft Access. Hit the subscription button, put notification so as to get notified once we are live. I want to appreciate us for being available for this section this night. If there is any question, kindly drop it in the group. I will really attend to read. Thank you, and do have a lovely night rest. Good night.